Let's compare the new Cracked 3D Embossing folder from Sizzix with the Lumber 3D Embossing folder from Sizzix. They're both a wood grain look, but they definitely have some different looks to them. I'm using some Craft Mixed Media Heavy Stock here, and I like to lightly mist both sides of the paper just to give it a little bit of flexibility. It helps push it into those grooves. Unless you're wanting to color it with a wet medium, you do want to make sure that you let it dry completely before applying inks to it. Now let's try the Cracked 3D Embossing folder. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lightly mist the paper on both sides with a mister bottle. Now here, I kept this in here because I wanted you to see it. If your stacking is not right, and it's right here for a 3D embossing folder, but this is a brand new one, and I'm not sure why, but it really did not want to go through the machine. So I opened up the next tab on my multi-purpose platform, and that was the right stacking for this particular folder. I had the same problem with both my brand new Sizzix 3D embossing folders. So I'm not sure if they're a hair thicker this time or not, but you want to make sure not to force it. So there are the two 3D backgrounds. I'm going to let them dry, and then I'm going to put some ink on there to really let that texture come out. So I've let my embossed papers dry. I'm going to put some Distress ink on the left side one, and I'm going to put some Distress Oxide ink on the right side one, just to show that the different ink that you add can give you a completely different look as well. I'm using a brayer to apply it, but you could also use an ink blending tool, or you could take the pad and you could apply it right to the paper. When you're using an ink blending tool, you're going to get some of that ink in the debossed part of it. It's not all going to be on the raised part of it. So just know that how you apply ink makes a difference in how it's going to look. Now I'm going to use a different brayer to apply the Distress Oxide ink to the second one. Oxide ink is a dye pigment blend, whereas the Distress ink is a dye blend. So it's going to have a completely different look to it. The nice thing with the oxide is when you spray it with water, it oxidizes, which makes it look a little bit chalky. So it gets kind of a bit of a gray tone to it, which looks really, really cool. And again, you can apply it with an ink blending brush or just right from the pad. You don't want to use the same ink blending brushes for your Distress pads and your oxide pads. And this is what it looks like when it's dry. Both cool textures.